Access granted.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special video here on Dom the Demon Slayer. We're going to take you back to the past today, and, wait, we're going to take you back to the past? No, I'm going to take you back to the past today, to a little-known piece of software from the 2000s that I grew up with, known as RealArcade. Think of this like a very early version of Steam. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, it was around the same time that Steam debuted in 2003, maybe even a little bit earlier. RealArcade was a service where it was a free piece of software. You can buy a bunch of games, you could download free trials, and you could sign up for a subscription service where you could then pay a monthly fee and then play as many games as you want. Now, this service has been discontinued for many years, but there is a way I could still sort of kinda resurrect the software and show you what it's all about. Through the installation disk for one of my favorite games, Feeding Frenzy, it has the RealArcade software, and even right on the disk it even says RealArcade Presents. So what I'm going to do is put the installation disk into my computer, and what it's going to do is it'll give you the option to install Feeding Frenzy, the RealArcade software, or both. I already have Feeding Frenzy, don't need to install the game, but I will install the RealArcade service, so let's get to that. Alright, so there, the installation disk is in my computer, and you know, the funny thing about this is, like, I don't need a virtual machine to, you know, run this thing. This will boot up and run on Windows 10 perfectly fine, so I don't have to jump through any hoops to show you guys this software, which is really fucking cool. Alright, now we are officially getting somewhere here. So yeah, when you go to this screen, when you install it, it'll say install Feeding Frenzy with RealArcade, or you can go to other install options. I already have the game, so let's just only install the RealArcade software, and we'll work at it from there. You know, it's just funny seeing this kind of shit run just on Windows 10, you know, it's very old school, and the fact that, you know, it runs perfectly fine on Windows 10, because back in the day, I used to have Windows XP, and, you know, Windows Vista and all that stuff, and, you know, that's the kind of stuff it was designed to run on. This debuted during the XP days, so that's when this software was really meant to run. I mean, I don't know why is that some computer software or games, they can run on Windows 10 no problem, but some of them you have to run on a virtual machine because they don't run properly. I don't know how all that works. I'm not very tech savvy with computers. But, I mean, this is just a fun showcase. Like, look at this loading screen, you know, just shit like this. It's just very nostalgic to see. And it's just amazing that, and look at that, it even shows like a little XP thing going on right there. Oh my god, this takes me back. And yeah, here we are. This is the RealArcade software right here. So basically it's just kind of a small screen. It's like one big basic user interface. At the top you have a online indicator knowing that you are connected to the internet, and while we are connected to the internet, obviously the service itself is defunct, so if I go to click on anything that could lead to a link, it's not going to open up. But it's just funny to think that to this day, and probably forever after, I can still install this software and just dick around with it for shits and giggles. Now, basically how this worked is, like, you would have a whole bunch of games here. So let's say I wanted to get Feeding Frenzy, or actually, even better, one of my other favorite games, Super Collapse 2. You would click on it, you could download the free demo, or you can buy the full version of the game, and according to this, it says that it would be US $19.99. So every individual game was always around like $20 each if you wanted to buy them separately. You could download a free demo where you get like a 1-hour free trial or something. So that's where I grew up with a lot of random PC games. So I know what Super Collapse is, and Zuma, and Feeding Frenzy, one of my favorite games. So this is where Game Pass came in handy. Game Pass, now that might sound familiar because I think Xbox has an Xbox Game Pass or something, or I could be wrong. But this was the RealArcade Game Pass, and it was actually a pretty damn good deal. Your ultimate game subscription. Members save up to 65% every month. And I believe this is the page that should describe how it worked. Ah, here it is. All for a low price of only $6.95 a month. $6.95 a month. Just roughly $7 a month, and you got to play as many games as you wanted as long as you kept your subscription active. Right here it advertises over 200 games to choose from. Discover new games every week, $5 off all other game purchases. So this was a beautiful deal at the time. Now, as far as like what year this version of the software debuted, well, the installation disk for Feeding Frenzy that I have here was from, I believe, copyrighted 2005. So we can assume that, yeah, this RealArcade version I'm running right now is roughly a 2005 build of it. And so this was so big back in the day. I mean, it's funny because it feels very obscure because, like, I don't know that many people that used this service back then. My family and I happened to find it and we used it. We used to play a shit ton of games because, I mean, you're talking only roughly $7 a month and you got to play all these games that you see on the screen right now for just $7 a month. You could have bought all of them separately if you wanted to, but how the fuck could you go wrong? $7 a month. Now, of course, there's a lot of shit I am very nostalgic for. Trivia Machine, I remember we used to play that a lot on our family computers back in the day. I used to live in New Jersey as a kid, and upstairs we had like a little computer room across from my parents' bedroom. We had like a big bulky white computer and then a black one. They both ran Windows XP. And yeah, we used RealArcade on both computers, and we used to have, this is one of the games I remember, Trivia Machine, which is a random trivia game, and Sand Aquarium. That's a very fun game. That one you can actually get on Steam, and I highly recommend you get that on Steam. I think it's only like maybe $6, or I could be wrong. It's definitely one of the many PopCap games you can get on Steam right now. Super Collapse, that's a very fun series of puzzle games that I play very often. I recommend that one. You know, it's just funny to see, like, how you can see, like, all these games as if, like, you could just download them from this thing, but you can't. It's defunct. It's just that the installation file for the software on things like the Feeding Frenzy disk exists, so you can install the software, but it's practically useless. It's just really kind of just like a trip down memory lane, really just like a graveyard of old early to mid 2000s PC gaming memories. Yep, and there was even a SpongeBob version of Collapse. Probably not too many people remember that from like 2003, 2004-ish. Very fun. Hamster Ball is a very fun puzzle game, which is also available on the PS3 right now. Yeah, that's very fun. There's a lot of games I don't even remember, like Bricks of Egypt, Emperor's Mahjong. Like, some of them, I didn't play every single game, but I played a select few that I remember. So let's see what happens if I click See All Games. Okay, so you hit See All Games, and now you just get a massive list of every game that was available at that time. Avalanche, oh my god. This game I try to find on the internet all the time, and it's one of those that's like very difficult to come across. I really don't know how to like find it. It's very hard. Okay, so when you go to this little menu right here, you can also look at a video preview screenshots, you can read reviews, or you can hit Join Game Pass. So they really try to, you know, get you hooked on this stuff, and I can't blame anybody. And also you scroll down and it gives you some recommendations. If you like this game, you might also like this. You could share this game with a friend. Oh my god, and now you know this is old school, because right here it tells you your basic requirements, that this shit can run on Windows 95, 98, ME, 2000, and XP, so... And this was 2005, and, you know, these games still could run on those systems, which I find pretty amusing. Let's see, anything gonna happen if I click screenshots? No, because in order for it to show preview screenshots or reviews or anything related to RealArcade or Game Pass, it would have to connect to the internet, and basically it won't do anything at all. Because obviously the service is defunct, there's nothing for it to connect to, so unfortunately it would just remain on the screen until I think eventually it would just come up with like an error or something. Yeah, so if I hit read reviews, join Game Pass, literally nothing happens. The other things you can do online web games. So yeah, I think I'm gonna assume what this means is that you're able to play some games like online, like on like your internet browser, instead of having to download them, so you could do that too. And there was a pretty decent amount of games that they offered that too. Featured downloaded games, so these are all the featured games at that time. There was game channels, so you can go to a few different developers or publishers, and I guess you could look at the games they had available from them, and then maybe you could purchase or download them. Skunk Studios, they were a small studio that made the Gutterball 3D games, which are just basic 3D bowling games. PopCap, who nowadays are probably most famous for Plants vs. Zombies. Atari, Gamehouse themselves, because Gamehouse was the main driving force behind the RealArcade service. Then you can go to reviews and community, so you can basically every average Joe Schmo's like reviews. So you can go ratings, reviews, message boards. And again, you cannot literally find anything because it cannot connect. Then, of course, there was the help desk. You could sign into your account. This is kind of like an FAQ thing. You can ask questions based on the service. Are you a game to find out how to submit your game to RealArcade? Okay, so wow, they even offered something where if you were into developing games, you could develop games for the RealArcade service. So it was definitely very user friendly, and I would even argue ahead of its time. I mean, I don't remember the exact year it came out. Maybe I can look it up and put it somewhere in the video. But this version of the software was from 2005, and to think this was a pre-smartphone era software where you could develop computer games for, I mean, that's just pretty, astounding in of itself. So they even had a section for Palm games, because I don't know if there was one of those like little pocket PCs, I think it was called the Palm OS. They even had games for that, like it's amazing. And of course there's all games. Then there's the My Games section, which is basically all the games that you would have downloaded or that you played. It would tell you recently played, PC games, Palm games, downloads. You can go to add games. Okay, if you can manually create a shortcut to games inside. Okay, so it's like creating shortcuts on your desktop screen, except you could do it right here, and then I guess you can go to here, click on the shortcut, and it would boot up the game. So, honestly, just an absolute beautiful piece of software. RealArcade Tour, I have no clue what that does. That's just not going to load. Yeah, it's just funny just to see, like, yeah, there's a prime example. You go to click on something, it can't connect, so yeah, it's just not going to work. Okay, so here's something I find very funny. You can technically kind of sort of use this as an internet browser. So I went on the Reviews and Community tab. I clicked one of these buttons. So let's say I click Ratings and Reviews, right? And it can't reach the page. And if I click Search for this site on Bing, boom, it opens up like a little hidden internet browser. So not that this would be very secure or work very well. So let's just say I want to go to like YouTube, right? Let's see how well I can get this to work. Okay, so I search YouTube, and it even says your browser is out of date and may not work with certain websites. So this is kind of a very unsecure thing to do. I would not recommend this. It even tells you to update your browser. Okay, let's see. How far can I go? Well, I go to Remind Me Later, and it's trying its best. Oh my god, it actually fucking loaded YouTube. Wow. So I'm just gonna click on something random and see if it actually loads a video. Here we go. Here's a Mr. Beast video. That's a perfect thing to test. Why not? Is this actually gonna work? Oh my god. Okay, it's working, but it's like very, very...
Anything you fit in this triangle, I'll pay for.
Bet, let's go! I think I want to start right here, bro.
Okay,
starting off with the TV.
Jesus Christ. So it does work, but it is very choppy, as you could tell, because I don't know what the basis for the RealArcade browser is using. It's probably based around Internet Explorer. I'm not entirely sure. But as you can see, this thing even worked as like a semi-functioning browser. I mean, back in the day, when it was, actually made for the current operating systems and whatever, it probably worked pretty flawlessly. Now, I'm surprised it even works to any sort of degree, but it does, This is just an absolute blast to go through, because it takes me back to a time, simpler times, of me growing up the way I did when I was a kid and playing all these random obscure games and stuff. Other than that, I pretty much covered all bases with what this software was and what it did back in the day. And hopefully more people can talk about it just for the sake of it, because again, this feels like something that a lot of people might have known back then, but then it just kind of fell into obscurity, because I believe RealArcade ceased to exist by around 2009, and RealArcade and Gamehouse, I believe they merged, and Gamehouse itself is still around, but they were like a completely different, like, website / service than they used to be with RealArcade. It's totally different now, and virtually 99% of these old games that were on here, Gamehouse doesn't even have available anymore. They're all kind of gone. So you have to go throughout, you gotta like scour the internet to find them. A site that I found that works really well is called Game Fools. It is how I obtain games like SpongeBob Collapse, Collapse Crunch, Super Collapse 2, Cinema Tycoon, Super Pop and Drop, which is a game I want to get to very soon and review that. There are some random websites like Game Fools where you can buy games for like a few bucks, and some of them were old games that were available back in the day on RealArcade and PopCap's website, and a lot of other websites that used to host these games, but a lot of them just don't exist anymore. So to find random games like this, it becomes more increasingly difficult. And you have to remember, not every game back in the day had like an installation disc like Feeding Frenzy. For example, like Super Collapse 2 and Insaniquarium, they have actual installation discs, so you can track down physical copies of those games to install. But at least as far as my knowledge goes, a lot of these games were digital only. So therefore, if you didn't find them when they were available on the servers back in the day, chances are they're probably gone forever unless you could really find them on some random obscure site. And then again, you have to be careful with that for viruses and stuff like that. The last thing I really want to mention that I feel is pretty damn awesome is this little section right here. So they have like this moving, I guess you can call it a GIF image, and community news, featured arcade tip. The help desk is full of helpful information, featured game hints, be a beta tester, and give us feedback. And you could even click here, love arcade, tell a friend. Like, it was pretty user friendly. Like, it really went all the way to kind of grow a little community. And it's just amazing that it lasted for as long as it did, because I believe it was sometime in the early 2000s till around 2009, and by that point Steam was really, pun intended, catching steam, as stupid as that sounds, and that really took off. But some of you out there may actually remember a lot of these old random PC games, but you probably didn't play them very much, and therefore they were just kind of one and done for you. Like another big example is Chains. That was another big one. Okay, this is the... Okay, so I don't want to click that. So unfortunately, again, I can't really show any of these games unless I go ahead and download them myself, which I could do a little... I might do more videos on these games, I don't know. But you had all kinds of stuff. You had licensed stuff, you had people, just like stuff everyday people made. But in terms of licensed games, look at this. Spider-Man 2, Web of Words. It looked like maybe like a typing game or something. And yeah, it was released around when Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire was coming out. So you had shit like that. And then you had the SpongeBob Collapse game. And you had all these other random games, which look really fun, actually. But the chances of tracking down every single one of these, other than the ones that I know you can find, might be slim and none. Like Hamster Ball exists, the Collapse games, Feeding Frenzy 1 and 2. Feeding Frenzy 2 is also available on Steam, so some of these games do exist elsewhere. But other than that, it's very difficult to find some of these. Maybe some people have better luck with finding these games than I would. It's just funny to think that there was a point in time where finding all these early 2000s games was in one central service where you could find all kinds of cool little quirky games and stuff like that. Okay, and here's an example of something just absolutely not working. So I clicked on one of the web games somewhere and it tries to lead me to Internet Explorer is no longer supported. Jesus Christ. Because what it does is, some of these links, I guess, do kind of work. They lead you to Gamehouse's website, but again, a lot of the older games are not there anymore. Gamehouse is completely different. It's just funny to see that, some of this software, it technically partially works. There's even a button to update the game guide, downloading the latest catalog. Yeah, it's not going to download shit. As you can see, the whole software is completely the same. Apparently you can try Game Pass free for a month. They even had Game Pass free for an entire month before you would start spending $7 a month. Like, this was a pretty damn good deal that you could get. And there were so many games. Just like, look at the amount of stuff you have here. I mean, you click see all and you had all of this at this time in 2005 for $7 a month. That's pretty goddamn awesome. Well, with that being said, that's pretty much a look into the RealArcade service. Hopefully some of you actually use this, and I'm not the one of 10 people in this world that actually remember this software. But hopefully you enjoyed that. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm Dom the Demon Slayer. See y'all in hell, Demon Slayers, when we look at some more random obscure games, or some more popular ones, whichever comes first. See ya, have a good day, stay beautiful.